farmers and laborers, mechanics, bus drivers, average individuals. And he himself, suddenly, the incredible personality that could bring them health or release. Once he had dreamed of uniting the continent as America's driving voice. Now he put aside his metaphors and became instead just a man. He never spoke of his poems, he was living them. Whitman kept enormous volumes of notebooks all his life, in which he jotted events of the day, remarks on people he had met, views of the world. The pages he kept during the war are unlike any other record we have of those years. In 1875, he published selections from his diaries in a book called Memoranda during the war. Later, he absorbed the pieces into a larger volume of memoirs called Specimen Days, much as he continued to include all his later poems into further editions of Leaves of Grass. But his years in the hospitals had changed him, and marked the beginning of his old age. His vitality was sapped by constant contact with death and tragedy. His health started to fail. The Civil War, capped by the devastating assassination of Lincoln, had broken him. He no longer had the strength to be the rowdy, verbal adventurer of his youth, and he settled down instead into the public's image of him as the good gray poet. A quiet man of wisdom, much changed from the vivid, vital American rough he celebrated in Song of Myself. In his later life, Whitman himself described the Civil War years as the centerpiece of his life. And now, Memoranda during the war from Specimen Days.
1862. I estimate 3 leading sources and formative stamps to my own character, now solidified for good or bad, and its subsequent literary and other outgrowth. The maternal nativity stock brought hither from faraway Netherlands for one, doubtless the best, the subterranean tenacity and central bony structure, obstinacy, willfulness, which I get from my paternal English elements for another, and the combination of my Long Island birth spot, seashores, childhood scenes, absorptions, with teeming Brooklyn and New York, with, I suppose, my experiences afterward in the secession outbreak for the third. For in 1862, startled by news that my brother George, an officer in the 51st New York Volunteers, had been seriously wounded at the First Fredericksburg Battle, December 13th, I hurriedly went down to the field of war in Virginia. But I must go back a little. Opening of the Secession War. News of the attack on Fort Sumter and the flag at Charleston Harbor, South Carolina, was received in New York City late at night on April the 13th, 1861, and was immediately sent out in extras of the newspapers. I had been to the opera on 14th Street that night, and after the performance was walking down Broadway toward 12 o'clock on my way to Brooklyn, when I heard in the distance the loud cries of the newsboys, who came presently tearing and yelling up the street, rushing from side to side even more furiously than usual. I bought an extra and crossed to the Metropolitan Hotel, Niblo's, where the great lamps were still brightly blazing, and with a crowd of others who'd gathered impromptu, read the news, which was evidently authentic. For the benefit of some who had no papers, one of us read the telegram aloud, while all listened silently and attentively. No remark was made by any of the crowd, which had increased to 30 or 40, but all stood a minute or two, I remember, before they dispersed. I can almost see them there now, under the lamps at midnight again. National uprising and volunteering. I have said somewhere that the 3 Presidentiads preceding 1861 showed how the weakness and wickedness of rulers are just as eligible here in America under Republican as in Europe under dynastic influences. But what can I say of that prompt and splendid wrestling with secession slavery, the arch-enemy personified, the instant he unmistakably showed his face? The volcanic upheaval of the nation, after that firing on the flag at Charleston, proved for certain something which had been previously in great doubt, and at once substantial.